quite close to buying Matheus Cunha from Atletico Madrid. Romano's kind of hopped on it now. Obviously, it kind of started getting rumoured yesterday. I like this. Generally, I think there's a lot to like about this rumour. I have some concerns that I'll speak about in a minute. But look, Cunha's a guy that if you go on his Wikipedia, you probably think, oh, God, his goal record's terrible, whatever. I think that's really harsh. If you look at since he's kind of broken as like a real senior player at Hertha Berlin, who, by the way, are terrible. His first kind of season there only got about 700 minutes, but got 5 goals. That's a pretty good return. Obviously got that full breakthrough season at Hertha, which is when we tried to buy him, I think back in, was it 2020? I think it was 2020. I think I say, yeah, it was January 2020. So, this is a guy that's walls the track for a while, which, by the way, I've seen people say this is like Lopetegui getting his man. This has got nothing to do with Lopetegui. This just screams Mendes wanting to get a player out of Atleti, obviously one of his clubs, and we need a player. This is what happened with Johnny. This is what happened with Diogo Jota. It feels the same. But look, Cunha's first season at Hertha Berlin, proper season anyway, got 2,000 minutes, got 11 goal contributions. That's pretty good. 7 goals, 4 assists. And by the way, a side that finished 14th in the Bully. For context, there's only 18 teams in the Bundesliga. In the Premier League, that's like 16th. You know what I mean? They're crap. So, to get 11 goal contributions is pretty good. Obviously, that got him the Atletico Madrid move. His first season was pretty good. To get 1,000 minutes and get 6 goals, 4 assists, that's 10 goal contributions in 1,000 minutes. That's basically a goal contribution every 100 minutes. That's pretty good. And obviously, he hasn't really played a lot this season. And even his underlying numbers are okay. Like I think a lot of time looking at goals and assists isn't always great. And if you look at the under the hood numbers, they're a lot better. If you look at his non-penalty goals plus assists, it's kind of always been at around 0.5, which is really healthy. To be getting a goal or assist every other game, or 0.5 per 90, that's pretty good, especially for a guy that's not an out 9. Cunha's not a guy that's going to play up front on his own, is he? He's a second striker. So to be putting up 0.5 is pretty good. Like, for context, like Richarlison, for example, he's never really been an out 9, never really been a winger. He's always kind of been a second striker off Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's always kind of been on around 0.38, 0.45, that sort of. Obviously, it's gone up a bit this season because he's gone to a bigger club in Tottenham, but, I'm choosing that as an example of people that haven't looked at these sort of numbers before. I think having kind of 0.5, 0.6 is always pretty good. And this is a guy that, like, he's been at RB Leipzig where he's been in a pretty juiced attack in a good side that play on the counter. He's been at Hertha Berlin side of a crap and relegation sort of battle. And he's been in an Atleti side, or obviously an elite club, but they don't really play like an elite club in terms of, like, their style of football. So I think there's a lot to like about Cunha. And, where my only concerns, actually, before I say that, this is a guy that when you look at his numbers wherever he's been, he's always had good defense numbers, he's always had good dribble numbers, he always gets a lot of shots. And, those were his ones at Leipzig. At Hertha Berlin, again, was at about 4 dribbles, good defense numbers, good shot numbers. That's pretty consistent. The only thing that's really dropped off is since he's gone to Atleti, he doesn't really dribble anymore. It's about 0.6. But, the fact that when he was in the Bundesliga, he was about nearly 4.5 dribbles. To me, that's just a stylistic thing. You don't go from completing 4.5 dribbles to completing 0.6 unless that's a stylistic thing. So I like the fact that Cunha's been at a defensive Atleti side, a defensive Hertha side, and a pretty dominant Leipzig side. Yet he's always kind of had the same underlying numbers. To me, that suggests he's a good player to a certain point. So I don't really hate the signing. My only concerns for him is, look, Wolves need an out 9, right? That's what we need. If under Lopetegui, we're probably going to play a 4-3-3. Adama is the only right winger we've got at the club. Calm, nothing wrong with that. So we've got 2 spots there for Cunha. He's not an out 9. This is a guy, Matheus Cunha, who's winning 1 aerial win per 90. By the way, playing for Atleti, and his aerial win rate is 16%. That's terrible. Like, for context, Daniel Podence at 25, and Daniel Podence is like 5'4" or something. So Cunha's not a guy that's going to come in and be an out 9. And maybe Lopetegui doesn't want that. Maybe Lopetegui wants a false 9. Maybe he wants a number 9 that's a bit quicker. But if you look at Lopetegui's whole career at Sevilla, he's had Luke de Jong, who's 6'6". He's had Rafa Mir, who's like 6'4". He's had Nisiri, who's like 6'2". I can't see him all of a sudden changing that. So, okay, fine. Maybe Diego Costa will bring in another forward, fine. But then that kind of only leaves you the left wing. Cunha's never really paid off the right, always paid off the left for a bit. But then you look at left wing and you've got Guedes, Podence, Hwang, and then Matheus Cunha competing for one spot. I don't really see how that works. And they're all kind of the same. If you look at all those 4 guys I just listed, Cunha, Hwang, Guedes, Podence, none of them are good enough to be an out 9 in terms of like finishing or physical ability or whatever. I wouldn't say any of them are really quick enough to be an out-and-out winger in the same way that Adama or Chiquinho are. So it does feel like we're just kind of stockpiling a bunch of guys who are like, they're not strikers, but they're not wingers. They're all kind of just like 10s/second strikers. That would concern me a bit. I don't really know what the plan is. And people will say this is a Lopetegui signing, whatever. like I said earlier, I don't think this has anything to do with Lopetegui. I think this is just Mendes trying to get a player out of Atleti. So that would concern me a bit. But overall, I don't think there are massive issues with this. It's something to get excited about, first of all, as a fan. He has put up good goal numbers before. And, if you're one of the other bottom clubs in the Premier League, if you're Southampton, if you're Forest, if you're Everton, if you're Leeds, if you're Bournemouth, you're probably not going to be able to get your hands on a guy like Matheus Cunha. Whereas we have relationship links with Mendes, and obviously the pull of Lopetegui will help. And if you're Southampton, you're looking at Wolves and going, okay, we can finish above them. You look at Matheus Cunha signing, that's a positive. That will kind of scare you a bit. And, in terms of the finances of this as well, like, we don't really know if it's a loan or a permanent. I just assume it would be a permanent or a loan with an obligation. But even if Wolves get relegated and we've got Cunha's wages, you can just sell him anyway. Like, Cunha's a guy that if we get relegated, even if Cunha is terrible for us and we get relegated, we'll still be able to sell him to like Gladbach or Eintracht Frankfurt, or like some Bundesliga club will buy Matheus Cunha off us. He's a good player. He's put up good numbers before. Even if he's terrible in the Prem, a foreign club will buy him off us. So I don't really think there's much concern about us losing like big value on him. And also the thing I like about Cunha is he's always had good defensive numbers every single club he's been at. And look, I'm not saying that means he'll come to Wolves and have like great defensive numbers, but if you look at all of our forwards, Pedro Neto's never had good pressing numbers. He's never had good defensive numbers. He's never been a good defensive forward. Same with Daniel Podence, always had terrible defensive numbers. Hwang had great pressing numbers at RB Leipzig and at RB Salzburg. There's this myth that Hwang's like a great presser. He's not. He's always had terrible pressing numbers since he's joined Wolves, especially in the last year. Guedes does nothing defensively, as much as I like him. Costa does nothing defensively. So obviously Adama doesn't either. So it'd be nice to have a forward that can actually like press for once. And also he just shoots a lot. Like if you look at Cunha's underlying numbers, wherever he's been, he's always had around 3 shots per 90. Even at Atleti, he's having 3.1. And if you look at the Wolves squad this season, purely in terms of just having shots, Diego Costa's come in and actually helped with that. He's on 3.5, but I don't think Diego Costa's looked like scoring a goal. When you look at our forwards that actually played a lot, Guedes, Podence, Neto, they're all at about like around 2. So if Cunha can come in and kind of have 3 shots, but I know it doesn't sound like a big difference, but it is. If Cunha can kind of be what he was at Atleti or at Hertha, you're getting a guy that can dribble a bit, can actually press for once, and can shoot. Like, I know it's a really basic thing to say, but we don't have a forward that can defend / press, and we don't have a forward that actually shoots a lot. So if Cunha can come in and kind of do that, it will add something. And yeah, it's kind of ambitious. I don't think any of the other clubs in that kind of zone of the Premier League would be able to attract a player of Matheus Cunha's quality. So if it does happen, it's something to get excited about. And it's taking advantage of a market opportunity for a guy who's pretty young. He's 24. He's put a good underlying numbers wherever he's been. So I don't have an issue with the club doing this. There's no part of me that's like worried about this. If Wolves spent 20 million on Cunha, I wouldn't really like batter an eyelid. I think it'd be wise. I just have concerns about where he fits. But look, we've seen nothing of Lopetegui. Obviously, we had that 2-2 draw with Birmingham yesterday, apparently, but we have no idea what formation we played in that game. We have no idea what Lopetegui's plan is. I'm just concerned if we play a 4-3-3, like everyone assumes we will, I don't really see where he fits, and it just feels like remember when we sold Benicofobia and then bought Joe Mason instead of just going and getting like an out-and-out 9. If we need an out-and-out 9, obviously we need a lot of other stuff as well, but if you want to buy a forward, you probably want a striker. Cunha's not that for me. Look, maybe he will be, and maybe I'm just dumb, but I don't see him being an out-and-out 9 in a 4-3-3. And it just feels like maybe we're buying someone who's already kind of the same profile as we've already got. But look, if Lopetegui can figure something out with him, or maybe improve him in the air somehow, whatever. He's a young forward. He presses well. He's played in a lot of countries already. He's always had consistent line numbers. He's always had okay raw numbers as well. I don't really see the downsides, assuming Lopetegui's a sensible manager. He's a pretty pragmatic coach. Like I assume he'll look at Cunha and look at what he offers and be able to get something out of him. I just hope this is something that Lopetegui has approved. And it does just feel like a club signing. Like a lot of people on Twitter are saying, "Oh, this is Lopetegui getting his way." It's not, to me anyway. This doesn't feel like a Lopetegui signing at all. This just feels like us doing Atleti a favour, which we did with Johnny and we did with Diogo Jota. But yeah, look, this is Matt Hobbs' chance to like get recruitment right. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, I think it's the right signing. I think it's the right idea. I just have concerns about the fit. But if Lopetegui is a sensible enough coach, which we assume he will, I think Lopetegui will look at Cunha and get something out of him. And yeah, look, all we can ask Wolves now and the new Wolves regime is just kind of to give Lopetegui the tools to keep us up. If we get Cunha in, if we get a centre back and we maybe bring in a striker on loan, Lopetegui has the tools there, and there's no excuses for him then. We're not cut adrift at all. If we bring in Cunha, he's better than any of the clubs around us forwards, really. And if we can get a centre back in and maybe another forward, I don't see any reason why, if Lopetegui is competent, we can stay up. So yeah, it's nice to see those games being done early as well. Assuming this isn't bollocks and it is actually true, it's nice to see Wolves actually doing some like early business for once, because it's not really something we do very often. So yeah, hopefully it gets done. Enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel, like the video. Yeah, peace.